One final update from the team facility, at least for this season. This is a 49ers update. They're packing up their lockers right now, cardboard boxes all over the room, some emotional goodbyes. It feels like the last day of school, except that I don't think that people actually wanted it to end. They especially didn't want it to end in the fashion that it did at Super Bowl 58. An exhilarating ride for the 49ers with a gut-wrenching finish. But the primary news today is Brandon Aiyuk. He was bordering on tears. He got very, very emotional when asked about this journey with his teammates and choked up. And that was essentially the end of the interview. Brandon Aiyuk did say earlier if he wants to remain with the 49ers, and he said, quote, if that's the right move. And then the follow-up question was, well, what would the right move look like? And Brandon Aiyuk said, and I quote again, being a champion. Obviously, there are some questions about what's going to happen next there because Brandon Aiyuk, he's actually still under contract with the 49ers. And I think that, a lot of social media, a lot of even reporters don't seem to emphasize that fact enough. The 49ers control what happens here. Aiyuk is entering year 5, 5th-year option at $14.2 million. But it's clear that he wants a new contract, and it's clear that there might be some wrangling that has to happen for that to actually become a reality, given the fact that the 49ers have a crowded salary cap situation. However, they have been here and they have done that. This team has a track record of bringing back its A-list players. They determined that Deebo Samuel was an A-list player a couple years ago, and I think that they've determined that Brandon Aiyuk, who's an All-Pro, is an A-list player as well. So expect the 49ers to make every effort to give Brandon Aiyuk a lucrative long-term extension this offseason, and I would ultimately expect Brandon Aiyuk to be a 49er for the long term based on what he put on tape this year. They pay their A-listers. But once drafted by this regime, in fact, this regime has a 100% success rate of paying those guys. Other news, Steve Wilks. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan did not commit initially to retaining his defensive coordinator. The first question from the media and Shanahan and Lynch's press conference about Steve Wilks was, do you plan for him to be back this year? And Kyle Shanahan basically answered with a version of, I haven't watched the tape from the game yet. I'm going to be talking about a lot of that kind of stuff over the course of the next couple weeks. A few minutes later, there was a follow-up question where a reporter specifically asked Kyle Shanahan if Steve Wilks is going to be back next season, and Kyle Shanahan said that he expects all of his coaches to be back next season. Shanahan was obviously still devastated today, as you would expect him to be. John Lynch also. Everybody's feeling the gloom. I still sense that in the locker room. I'll get into that in a bit. So that's going to be a qualifier for any answer that Shanahan has at this point. I think he does wear his emotions on his sleeve, especially after a loss as tough as the one in the Super Bowl on Sunday. So you have to include that as a caveat when you talk about what Kyle Shanahan and how Kyle Shanahan answered a question about Steve Wilks. But we still also do have to assign some meaning to the fact that he didn't offer a ringing endorsement right away, a firm yes immediately. And the truth of the matter is that the 49ers defense this year did drop from the number one defense in 2022 to a defense that was still in the top 5, but one that definitely had some performance issues at key junctures this season under Steve Wilks. And it's well documented that he was bringing in some different philosophies to the 49ers and tried to meld them in with what San Francisco had already done before. Remember, Shanahan didn't let Wilks bring any of his coaches in. Shanahan said, I want you to sit in the office here and integrate your philosophy with the 49ers system. So right now, I would say that there still is a degree of uncertainty about the 49ers future as far as defensive leadership goes. And that's the update from today. But, to Kyle Shanahan's point, going to take him a little bit of a time to sit down, watch the film, and determine exactly what he wants from his team moving forward. But I do think that it is important to underscore that there was no definite answer on that front today. Shanahan also said, there was a question about him not being able to win the big one. And Kyle Shanahan said, well, to get to the Super Bowl, we've had to win several big games over the years. And his quote was, to say the Niners can't win a big game that'd be an extremely inaccurate statement. Just as a train horn. That's loud. I'm outside here by Levi Stadium, and I guess that they're happy that I'm doing my 49ers update. The final 49ers update gets a really loud train horn. Wouldn't you love the timing of that? You know, that goes hand in hand with luck. Sometimes when I do a 49ers update, I have to have luck in that a train horn doesn't blow extremely loudly as it passes by. I think that Shanahan's statement about winning big games, the 49ers have won a lot of them, but about winning the Super Bowl specifically, you do have to have some luck on that particular day. And guess what the 49ers didn't have? They didn't have luck on the particular day of winning the Super Bowl. In fact, the data shows that the Chiefs have been the luckiest Super Bowl winner by far over the past 6 years, since 2018. The Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, I'll go into this a little bit later, but they recovered 6 of 7 fumbles in the Super Bowl, and fumble recoveries are one of the simplest, truest measures of luck. The 49ers obviously fumbled away twice, once with Christian McCaffrey, and then there was the ball that hit Darrell Luter Jr.'s calf. The 49ers didn't have that luck. In fact, if you go back and look at the list of the 10 luckiest playoff teams since 2018, the 49ers aren't even on that list of 10. So we talked all about the ladybug and the luck the 49ers might have had with the Brandon Aiyuk catch against the Lions. On the aggregate, the 49ers didn't have an exceptional amount of luck, and the Chiefs did. And it's one of the reasons why the 49ers weren't able to win the Super Bowl this year. Kansas City had the luck. You have to have the luck. You have to have quality to win a title. That's just how it works. And in 2 tries so far, the 49ers have not had the combination of luck and quality, and I think mainly luck in this past Super Bowl was missing. The 49ers have not had the combination necessary to win the Lombardi Trophy, and it's why you have to keep on giving yourself chances to get back there, because probability dictates that at least on one of the chances you are going to get it done. And I think that was Shanahan's point. I don't think he struggled to win a big one. I think that the 49ers have indeed won a lot of big games, and they have to continue organizationally putting themselves into position to get the job done moving forward. And I think that's what culture is all about. Kyle Juszczyk talked about that. Brock Purdy talked about that. George Kittle talked about that. That's what, being a man, getting up and continuing the fight is all about. And that's what the 49ers are going to have to do moving forward. Speaking about being a man and continuing the fight, I think that this locker room, it's built the right way. And 2 pieces of evidence. Javon Hargrave, the defensive tackle, actually played the Super Bowl with a torn thumb ligament, and Eric Armstead played the Super Bowl with a torn meniscus. That the meniscus is in your knee. So Armstead said that he didn't think that he was going to be able to come back in time for the playoffs. Not only did he muscle it up and come back and keep on fighting, he played well in the postseason. Javon Hargrave played well in the postseason with that torn thumb ligament. So just to look at some of the sacrifice and toughness that the 49ers went through to give it their all in this postseason. And I think that same kind of mentality, that same kind of, fervor and desire to win and persevere through difficulty, either through that injury or, moving forward into this offseason, I think that's the kind of stuff that really illustrates why the 49ers have bounced back from so much heartbreak before, right? They lost the Super Bowl in 2019. They lost 2 NFC title games to go on a run this season. It illustrates how they've done that, and I think it illustrates why they've got a good chance to pick up the pieces and move forward and bounce back and give themselves another chance at the Super Bowl this time around. They're organizationally built the right way, and you really felt that walking through the locker room today. One of the most poignant scenes today, Brock Purdy and all the Pro Bowlers got helmets from the Pro Bowl, commemorative helmets, and Brock Purdy went around to the stars, to Nick Bosa, and then I saw him with Christian McCaffrey. Actually tweeted this photo. He asked Christian for a signature on an autograph on his Pro Bowl helmet, and it was one of those moments that you look at and you're like, damn, these are 2 MVP finalists. There are only 5 of those in the entire league, and they're asking for each other's autograph. And that, to me, that was special in the locker room this offseason. Both Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey are going to be getting married this offseason. Brock in March, so that's next month. His fiancée Jenna has been doing all the preparation while Brock has been focused on football. And Christian McCaffrey is going to be getting married to his fiancée Olivia in June. So big offseason. They're both going to return to the 49ers as MVP finalists and married men when training camp breaks this offseason, when training camp convenes this next season. But obviously before then, the 49ers are going to go through OTAs, and they're going to go through just the entire process of the offseason, which involves 11 draft picks. That's going to be key in the financial Tetris that San Francisco has to play. Financially, they've set themselves up to be sustainable. John Lynch's quote today was a really good one. We have a really good nucleus that we can and will keep together. And that obviously involves Brandon Aiyuk. And that might take some negotiation. There might be some uneasiness at times. There might be some anxiety there. But remember, he is under contract, and the 49ers are in a good spot financially to continue growing the A-list core. And Brandon Aiyuk has proven to be worthy of that. Speaking of transactions in the offseason, the 49ers have made their first 9 signings of the offseason. These are guys that were on the practice squad who they're bringing back to be part of the 90-man roster. Offensive lineman Sebastian Gutierrez, cornerback Keeman Hall, the veteran safety Eric Harris, safety Taylor Hawkins, receiver Tay Martin, defensive end Sam Okoyanu, linebacker Curtis Robinson, tight end Jake Tongas, and defensive lineman Spencer Wagee. So all of those players, technically free agents once the season ended, have re-signed with the 49ers for at least the offseason. Another player we talked to was Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa mentioned that he wants Chase Young, definitely wants Chase Young back to re-sign with the 49ers, but he's also not sure if Chase Young was really damn good in the Super Bowl. That game earned him a lot of money, I'm thinking, and it might have earned him enough money to the point where the 49ers won't be able to bring him back. So we'll see how that all plays out. The NFL Combine is only a couple weeks away. The offseason will be abbreviated because the 49ers made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So that, as opposed to last year, that's 2 more weeks that the 49ers have taken a bite out of as far as offseason time goes. But they will have to determine who fits into their plan, who doesn't fit into their plan, and they'll obviously be using those 11 draft picks as a way to keep everything in cost-controlled fashion. It will be an uphill climb indeed, but one thing that we have to say leaving the building here for the final time this season is that Brock Purdy finished number 1 across all the efficiency metrics and went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes for 15 rounds in the Super Bowl. And he is just now entering his first fully healthy offseason in an NFL program. So the 49ers have a legit quarterback. They've got a franchise guy, played at an elite level this year. If you have that, you have a shot. And they also have a documented track record of bouncing back from gut-wrenching defeats to put themselves right in position the next season. And that's what I took away from the locker room today. It was an emotional farewell for 49ers players. Trent Williams still taking it really hard, for example. You can tell he hadn't slept much since the Super Bowl. It wasn't as visceral and raw as it had been in the locker room the other day when it looked like Christian McCaffrey had seen a ghost and when guys were literally shaking and crying in the locker room. But it's going to take a while for that to wear off. But the 49ers are confident that they're going to be able to take the pain and turn it into fuel. They have a documented track record of doing so before, and they think that they can do so moving forward again. So I hope that you've enjoyed the coverage from the facility this year. Of course, I'm not done. I'm going to keep on grinding. There'll be more coverage for you, but it just won't be here from Levi Stadium for a little bit. I wanted to give it a proper sign-off from the stadium that hosted so many great moments this year. The most recent of those being the NFC title game against the Lions. The 49ers did come up short. Their Super Bowl drought is going to run to 30 years. January 29th, 1995 was when they last won that Super Bowl against the San Diego Chargers. But I think the 49ers are well equipped to keep on putting themselves into position to finally kick the door down and win it all. In fact, Fred Warner today, packing up his locker, said exactly that. He said the 49ers winning a Super Bowl with this group of players, this core that's going to stay intact moving forward, it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when.